Hey gang, it's Chris Angel here with Chaz Wilson from Master Networks, and you're listening to Connect, Share, Prosper. Chaz, hey, this is our first episode. I'm excited to talk to you about face-to-face meetings and kind of dive right in.
Yeah, I'm super excited to talk about this because I really think, and why this became a quick topic that we wanted to discuss was simply because too many people join Master Networks, and I think the tragic thing that happens is, first of all, they don't give it enough time. And second, they don't understand that the magic of really building your network is what you do outside of the meeting, not just in the meeting. And that all starts with face-to-face meetings, right? It's connecting with people, which we'll talk about too, but it's really having those face-to-face meetings, not just what happens at the chapter level.
Right. So what's the step? I mean, break the face-to-face stuff down for me. How do we do that effectively?
Yeah. So first of all, it's being intentional about scheduling them first and foremost.
Okay. Right. So, you got to start there.
Yeah, you have to start there. And here's what I would suggest. And in fact, Michael Mayer talks about this. He's going to be one of our speakers at Connect. He talks about this in his book, 7 Levels of Communication. And I think what for me was brilliant about it was being more systematic about my face-to-face meetings. Mm-hmm. So for instance, where our chapter meets, I'm in a chapter. People find that hard to believe sometimes that I'm in a chapter. And I think it's important because I need to find connections for myself.
Right.
So I'm in the chapter. So in my chapter meeting, about 4 buildings down is this wonderful little coffee shop. And in fact, the owner was in our chapter today because all of our members are there right after our meeting. So I'm intentional, and a lot of our members, they do a way better job than I do. They're intentional about going to this coffee shop either before or after or both, and they stack their face-to-face meetings. So that's one real key thing is stack your face-to-face meetings. Now, it can be with people in your chapter, and what I think is really cool is if you had 3, maybe I'm getting a little logistical and technical, but if I had 3 face-to-face meetings, the one in the middle, I would have as a guest somebody that's not in my chapter that I want to introduce to members. So for instance, the first one, when they get up to leave, the second one, the middle one there is going to be there, and I'll introduce the 2 of them.
Yep.
When the middle one's done, that third one that's coming in, I'm going to introduce them to that person. So now I've introduced them to 2 people.
Right.
And so that's so key. So first of all, it's just planning it, getting them set up and showing up, being ready to communicate.
Yeah. I do like, I like the aspect of the intentionality where you're sort of coordinating your life a little bit more. Sometimes I know this for myself, just it's easy to go out and kind of shoot from the hip and be like, oh, I'm so thankful I even scheduled an interview. But to take it up a level, start choreographing these introductions so you're getting more out of your network.
Yeah, and it's part of the discipline of timing and just blocking that time to be specific and intentional. And it's so important. So here's the key. So now I show up and I've got this person here, and it's really important to follow the B.O.N.D. method that we teach in 5+1 and at Master Networks is the B.O.N.D. method. And it's first building on common interests. But the key is connection. Yeah. And the best way to connect is to listen and ask questions. If my intention is to show up and just sell right from the beginning and everything, I mean, we've all been there. We've been to those events where everyone's handing out their cards quick and it just doesn't feel good, first of all. Yeah. But I want to go deep and I want to get to know people. I've been in face-to-face meetings where at the end they go, my goodness, I didn't hear anything about you. And that's okay. We can do that next time. Right. But I want to hear about you and I want to be able to connect you. And so everyone speaks, but few connect. And so the best connect with people. And first you have to listen. That's going to be key. Do you have,
let me ask a question on that. Do you have certain questions that, I think sometimes it's just people aren't used to asking questions. And so having 3 to 5 questions that you've memorized could be helpful. Do you have certain questions that are helpful for that connecting?
Yeah. So I have a few, I'll share those. And then the other thing is why I really think it's the master skill is there's a skill involved. And so I think being too scripted in some ways can be detrimental because you have to be able to pivot. It's sort of like this interview. I mean, we could frame this out, Chris, but the reality is you're hearing things that I'm saying, you're pivoting and asking questions of your true curiosity. So keep that in mind. I think being curious is key.
That's good.
Right. So I'll just share a couple. First of all, I want to know where someone grew up. I think asking that question, everyone wants to talk about that. I've never had anyone that's sort of been short on that. I mean, usually we could spend 30 minutes just hearing about where they grew up. Tell me about that. Yeah. It tells me a lot about who they are. And then the other thing I talk about is how did you get into the business you're in? There usually someone has a story about that. And then I love to ask the tell me more about that as a follow-up because if I feel like they've just sort of skimmed over the top, I'll say, well, that's really interesting. Tell me more about that. Or what should I know about that?
Yeah.
and just dig and ask questions. It's pretty simple.
Do you ever have like questions like, what are your goals? What are your challenges? Those two questions?
I love to ask what their challenge is. I also like to ask, this is an interesting one that people will say, why'd you ask me that? I want to know who their competitors are.
That's good.
The reason why is I think sometimes then we can talk about, well, what is your competitor doing, or what blocks did your competitor have if they've been in business longer, that kind of thing, or what's important to you over the next year, are you looking to hire, those kinds of questions. I really get them strategically thinking. So
yeah, I like that a lot. That's really good. Okay, so that's the B in B.O.N.D.
Yeah, so it's all of it. Yeah, but it's B, and then we move into occupation exploration. Again, tell me about how you got started and what you do.
Yeah.
And I'll learn about their business. I often will talk about their economic models, their organizational models. I want to know who are they hiring? Who do they have? They looking to hire? Yeah.
And on that, just, and I can see behind your shoulder, you got 5+1. I think for anybody that's like economic models, budget, what do you mean? Like that book is so awesome for having if you just went through and looked at the different chapters and subheadings in each chapter of stuff, like each one of those is a talking point that you could ask questions about.
Yeah, thank you. And it's funny. Somebody asked me, they did a book club on 5+1. And they asked me the other day, how many times have you read your own book? And I was like, I've probably read it 7 or 8 times. In fact, I have the spiral bound with the tabs laid out. And if you could see mine, I have marks in mine. I have, hey, I would probably rewrite this section if I did it again.
Yes.
But I use it as a resource when I'm teaching and training. So bring that book along and maybe, use it as a guide. By the way, if you're familiar with it and you sit down with somebody, especially if they're not part of Master Networks, what an expert you can be using that as a guide to give advice. It's
probably a good segue into the end of like needs analysis and trying to figure out, like when you ask these intelligent questions about their business, it really lets you kind of, isolate where their needs are.
Yeah. So sometimes you'll ask people questions about what they need, what are they looking towards, what's standing in their way. Who are you looking to hire? And they may say, well, I wasn't looking to hire at all. What happens if you grow? All these, it's just really digging down and hearing things that maybe they're not saying that talk about needs. And I've never met somebody that I can even think of in a face-to-face. I don't need anything. I'm good. It's like, we're growing, we're a business. So that's the need. And then I think where you tie all the skill in is hearing what they've said and then looking to develop an opportunity or, fulfilling a need that they have by connecting them with somebody else. That's where the real connection comes in. Here's what I heard you say you need. I don't know if I know anybody right now or if I could help with that, but I'm going to keep that on the forefront of my mind. And if I come across somebody, I want to be able to, is it okay if I send them your way?
Right. Yeah, I like that. I would imagine that's even, I think one of the challenges after face-to-faces is follow-up. Like we had the meeting and then we didn't follow up or stay in touch. I think if you can really get access to a need, your follow-up can even be, hey, I remember last week we talked about this thing you needed. I just bumped into somebody, and then that developing an opportunity becomes part of your follow-up.
Yeah, I think that's why it moves into all the disciplines, right? Tracking. Do I have a CRM that I can follow up with and, keep those needs? And so, all that's important. Follow-up's the key. Yeah,
I love that. I think one of the things I'm excited about this podcast or the show with you is there's so many different places we can go deep on all of the things we're talking about. So, every time you listen to this podcast, you get to kind of dive deeper into all the different rabbit trails we can go down. So let's finish this way, Chaz. Like if people want to sort of make this actionable and level up their face-to-face game, what are some of the key places, 1, 2, 3 places to start?
Yeah. So first of all, get 5+1, read about B.O.N.D. So you're continuing to practice that, right? And then second, well, this is a plug for Connect because I think you should come to Connect to learn. We're going to talk about this in great detail. But second is go in the back office under some of the training. And then the third would be just do it. Start taking action. It's not a complicated process. It's not overly complicated. I think the consistency helps you show up better each time you do it. And then I would just say time block a day that you schedule 2 to 3 face-to-face meetings and just watch the magic that happens. I'd love to hear back. I mean, people can shoot me an email, chaz@masternetworks.net, say, hey, I want to share with you the feedback from my face-to-face meetings and just hear the power of what's happening. Just take action.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. In the event that somebody is listening to this that isn't currently a Master Networks member, maybe there isn't a chapter where they are, this is the first time they've ever heard about it. How do people learn more about Master Networks or getting involved in a chapter?
Yeah, so they can go to masternetworks.com. There's all kinds of information. We're going to be providing more and more. We're about to release a PDF workbook that talks about 7 steps to launching my own networking group.
Nice.
And that would give you a whole bunch of information about Master Networks. But you can find everything you need at our website, masternetworks.com. You're always welcome to call us here, reach out to us, and we'll make sure we connect you with somebody around the country.
I love it. For those of you listening, our next episode is going to be about time management and the discipline and the master skill of timing, the importance of timing. I know most of you wish you had more time in your life. So the next episode, we're diving into that. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you guys on the next episode.